This evening, as many of you asked, we're doing part 2 of what Facebook papers reveal. We all know by now from internal documents that have been accessed by whistleblower Frances Haugen and examined by media organizations across the world that some of the most concerning findings are about how the social media giant conducts its business in India, its largest market. Yet, the story continues to elude the legacy media for the most part. I am highly recommending our first video in this series. I'm linking it up as I speak. It has findings from internal memos which say that Facebook knew about the problems of misinformation, problems of hate speech, problems of targeting of minorities in India via the content, but did very little to address them. Now, in this video, we look at two distinct sets of voices within Facebook. First are the voices of Facebook staff. These are reflected in memos and internal reports as they've gone about flagging misinformation and content that's denigrating minorities in India. A case in point is a recently revealed internal memo from July 14, 2020, which flags the CAA protests and the Delhi riots as violent crisis events in India that create an environment of risk for offline harms. Now, the second set of voices are statements given by Facebook or their leadership, either brushing aside these concerns or insisting enough is being done to tackle them, like the case of that dummy account made by the Facebook researcher. This is the researcher we spoke of in video 1 as well. Do check out that video. Now, this person let Facebook algorithms throw up all kinds of content, and their account was inundated with inaccurate information around the Pulwama attack in 2019. Chris Cox, then vice president of Facebook, concluded that there was no reason to worry on account of what he called was low prevalence of problem content on Facebook in India.
Around the same time, Facebook shrunk its budget for the review team in 2019. Documents show suggestions were made internally to cut costs, so fewer user reports, fewer proactively detected pieces of content, and fewer appeals. So it is not mere coincidence that in the months following this budget cut, there was a marked increase in polarizing rhetoric on Facebook as flagged by an internal document dated July 2020. Wall Street Journal, citing human rights groups, says that Facebook continues to delay publishing an independent report it had commissioned in mid-2020 to investigate hate speech on its services in India. So why does Facebook resist tackling these issues head-on? Broadly, two reasons. First, technical. A document dated August 2020 reveals that the platform's AI tools were unable to identify vernacular languages and therefore failed to identify hate speech or problematic content. The two languages that Facebook has hate speech detecting tools for, Hindi and Bengali, internal reports say they are inadequate and ineffective. The second set of reasons are managerial and leadership. Facebook has clear double standards on its ethical responsibility. It takes this responsibility in Western markets far more seriously. Its internal memos show that most of its time and money is allocated to monitoring content from its US users. India, its largest market, gets less than 13% of the total time.
Okay, now some could argue that India lacks, let's say, in regulation or the political will to clamp down on polarizing hate speech. But Facebook is rather pliant when the requests are made by the government. In fact, according to the company's latest transparency report, the Indian government made 45,275 data requests to Facebook in the first half of 2021. This compares to 35,563 during the same period last year. It's about a 27% increase. Now, these included requests to pull down content, block users, and furnish information about them. And these were not always based on a hate speech or a fake news criteria. Facebook fulfilled over 50% of these requests. But when it comes to hate speech rules that are related to political parties and groups that have a sketchy record, well, We know what Facebook does. Case in point, Anki Das, the former policy head, she had opposed applying these hate speech rules to multiple politicians and groups that had been flagged internally by the company. Last week, another whistleblower, Sophie Zhang, told the Quartz that the platform prioritizes Indian power players, not people. Now, as a data scientist working at the tech giant at a low level, she did see up close how the social media platform was being exploited by political systems around the world, including India. In an interview with the Internet Freedom Foundation that we're excerpting here in this story, Sophie speaks of IT cells as ingrained in Indian politics.
I want to be clear that I was not focused on India. I was working worldwide. I mean, I was not focused on any specific country. I looked worldwide, and they found problems in India because India is a large fraction of the world's population. I'm not familiar with these media reports. In my general experience, it's unfortunate but true that IT cells are relatively ingrained in Indian politics, and that Indian political parties and politicians across the political spectrum feel the need to benefit from inauthentic activity, whether they pursue it as a personal hobby or more typically when they farm it out to someone whose time is less valuable. And so, I mean, to me, this is an area of significant concern. It seems to me that Indian politics is undergoing essentially an IT cell arms race, in which no political party feels like it can unilaterally disarm for fear of losing an advantage to its opponents. And this is no better for India than the US-Soviet nuclear arms race was for the world. But the problem won't be solved unless India comes together to do an IT cell disarmament treaty of sorts, or unless the Indian people step up and demand no more.
Now, the bottom line, the crux of the problem is that Facebook continues to see its prime mandate as maximizing views and screen time. Facebook is trying very, very hard to distance itself from the contents of its now open Pandora's box, with really iterations of the same denial in different places. They're saying documents are being misinterpreted, or documents are being oversimplified, or a law has changed since X document dated Y came out, and that they're trying their best to tackle what is a Herculean problem. They've even rebranded themselves as Meta, right? But it's clear for anyone who cares to see, there are holes in this metaverse. I'll stop here. Pallavi, Self, and our colleague Veer have spent a lot of time researching, detailing, talking to folks who know about this to put together this video. Please share this video. Leave a comment if something feels unclear. And our one major ask is, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Click that bell icon. I know you've heard that very, very often, but for a small channel like ours, every subscriber, like yourself, helps us in reaching more people and having what's called that network effect. I'll leave it here, and I'll see you very soon.